Hey, this is Jay from the Financial UA General Service Office. Oh, let me get rid of this thing. There, that's much better. Hey, it's Jay from the Financial UA General Service Office, located here in Baltimore, Maryland, and this is a global recovery alert. The focus of the video is going to be on what do you do when you get an unexpected windfall out of the blue, such as an economic stimulus check. What do you do when this money gets sent to you and suddenly you have $1,000 or maybe $3,000 that you never planned on having? What do you do when you receive money like this when you're in the middle of an economic or health crisis? Before we start talking about finances and money and prosperity and economic stimulus checks, I want to encourage you first to consider joining me with saying the prosperity prayer. In order to create space for healing and recovery, I'd like to invite you to say the prosperity prayer with me, just to calm things down so we can address these issues from a place of spirituality and serenity. Let's do that prayer. God, grant us a serenity to accept the things we cannot change, the courage to change the things we can, the wisdom to know the difference, and the prosperity to afford it. Thank you so much for being willing to say that prayer with me. Let's get started. A lot of financial under-earners struggle with the symptom of process skipping. A lot of people who process skip put their wants before their needs, when really, at a time like this, we need to focus on our needs first and save our wants till later. So if you're able to identify your needs right now, when this stimulus money comes in, you'll be able to direct that money to the things that you need rather than squandering it on things that you want. I would also encourage you to consider the idea of putting your needs first. Second, to consider establishing an emergency reserve. Third, to put money towards your prudent reserve. Fourth, to think about investing in your future. And then finally, fifth, to start putting money towards your wants. Next, make an envelope for each of your needs. Today I had the opportunity to interview another member in Financial UA. We talked about how to identify our needs. So the technique we talked about using was to identify 10 needs and then to have 10 envelopes, one envelope for each one of those needs. We used the example of receiving $1,200 as a stimulus, and then we said if we have 10 envelopes, we could take that $1,200, divide it equally by each of the envelopes, and we could put $120 in each one of the 12 envelopes. That way, if we lost our jobs or if our income stream dried up or an emergency happened, we knew we could pay for each one of our needs with the $120 that was in that envelope. We also talked about that sometimes certain expenses cost more than $120. So it's possible to take a little bit of money out of each one of the envelopes and to put it into one of the envelopes that is going to require more money. So it's okay to have a different ratio for each envelope. It's completely up to you. But by establishing what your needs are ahead of time, it helps you to have clarity so that once you receive this money, you can put it directly towards taking care of your needs before you get tempted to put this money anywhere else. Let's shift over to reducing your expenses, because it's definitely nice to receive more income, but it helps to spread that money out further if you're able to reduce a couple of your expenses. So let's talk about those real quick. You might consider calling each one of your creditors and asking if you could receive forbearance. It's possible to call up your landlord and discuss what options you have with postponing making rent or maybe paying a reduced amount on your rent. Sometimes your landlord could negotiate and work with you, and it's better to establish that communication ahead of time than to just suddenly stop making payments and then your landlord gets freaked out and starts wanting to chase you down to get their money. It's better to initiate the communication ahead of time. The same thing works if you have to make a mortgage payment. It's better to talk to your mortgage lender and ask if you can receive forbearance, to postpone making payments, to have a window of time in which you might not have to make any payments at all. And in the economic stimulus package, they're also talking about, as part of that plan, putting a halt on mortgage payments. Some states within the United States are also implementing a plan to prevent lending institutions from collecting mortgage, to again give you as an individual more breathing room to take care of yourself during this crisis. You might also consider calling up any company that has issued you a credit card to whom you owe money. You could call up your credit cards and ask if you can have the interest waived or if you can receive a period of time in which you may not have to make any payments at all. But again, it's better to communicate with your creditors than to have them start chasing you. I would also, on the side, encourage you to consider, if you're in that situation, reaching out to Debtors Anonymous. Debtors Anonymous, as a fellowship, has a tremendous amount of wealth of experience and knowledge when it comes to communicating with creditors and negotiating and establishing a debt moratorium or a payment moratorium on credit cards. So I would encourage you to go check them out because they're the experts on that topic. If you don't need to spend the money right away on your needs, I would encourage you to take that full amount of your stimulus check and maybe put it aside as an emergency reserve. Now, an emergency reserve is used for emergencies, an absolute crisis. If somebody, God forbid, passes away, or if you absolutely have no money for groceries or anything that truly is an emergency, and you can always reach out to your sponsor or other people in the program and share your situation to say, hey, I think this is an emergency. Do you think it's an emergency? Am I seeing the situation clearly? Can you help me determine if this situation is an emergency? And if so, then it gives me permission to spend my emergency reserve money. You might consider having an envelope just for your emergency reserve. You might also consider putting the money towards a prudent reserve. Once you already have money in your emergency reserve, you could start to put money in your prudent reserve, which allows you to think a couple months ahead. A prudent reserve is designed to help cushion your financial situation if you have changes in your job status, but it's more for slow situations rather than immediate situations. I like to say a prudent reserve is for extended responses to financial situations, where you need to make slow decisions over a period of time to deal with a financial situation, as opposed to needing to make immediate decisions to deal with an immediate situation. You can consider taking the stimulus check and putting it into your general savings. If your savings is completely robust and you don't need to worry about an emergency reserve or a prudent reserve, and you know you're good in that way, you might then consider taking that money and putting it towards investing in your future. I had the opportunity to interview a few members in Financial UA who are very stable, who have a really good savings reserve. So in their particular situation, they're going to take the money and invest it. In their particular situation, they talked about the US economy and the stock market and how many companies are tremendously undervalued. And it's possible to invest in companies for pennies on the dollar, to buy stock in companies at a fraction of what those companies' stock would normally be worth. They believe the economy will bounce back and the companies will increase to their former value, and in doing so, an investment made now will double, triple, or quadruple or more over a period of time, maybe even by next year. Now again, I'm just sharing some of the things I learned through some interviews, but it's an idea that you might want to consider investing in your future. Next, you might consider investing a small portion of that stimulus check into starting or creating a small business that can create a product or fulfill a need or offer a service to other people in this time of the global health emergency. I've seen many videos and also a lot of news stories where different governors are talking about what their state needs to deal with the tremendous health epidemic that's going on. A lot of people are asking for surgical masks or other type of breathing respirators, cleaning supplies, hand sanitizer. Well, necessity is the mother of invention. A lot of people are getting really creative, finding ways to make products that serve our community in this time of crisis. Just as a personal story, a couple members of my extended family happen to own and operate a brewery. Well, it so happens that some of these small craft breweries are taking their equipment and instead of making alcohol for consumption, they're choosing to make alcohol that can be used as a form of sterilization. Not everybody's in a situation to do that, but you might consider, as our next suggestion, praying and meditating and asking your higher power and your earning power to give you an intuitive thought or feeling or creative inspiration as to something you can do to create a product, build something, provide a service that can help other people, and what you have to offer might be in demand in this time of crisis. You could, of course, always ask your higher power and your earning power, what should I do with this money now that I have it? And that would be a tremendously good idea for anybody in recovery to ask their higher power, to invite their higher power into the process, and for financial under-earners, to invite their earning power into the process to say, what should I do with this money? What could I do with this money that could help me, that could help others, and maybe it could create a tremendous amount of prosperity that could help everybody whose lives it touches. You might consider taking your stimulus check to your spiritual council and asking the members of your spiritual council, what would you do with this money if you were to receive it? You might also ask your sponsor or another member of recovery to hold space for you while you communicate with your spiritual council to get ideas and feedback and possibly brainstorm about what you can do with your economic stimulus check. And finally, with your economic stimulus check, you might consider buying yourself a copy of the Financial UA 12-Step Workbook or a copy of the Financial UA Traditions Workbook so that you can find a way to work the program of Financial UA better for your personal situation. You might also consider offering a scholarship for somebody else in Financial UA who might be in a difficult financial situation such that they cannot afford to get a workbook of their own. If you are in a position to do so, you might consider offering them a scholarship. And of course, you might also consider making a 7th tradition donation to the Financial UA program, because any donation you make to this program helps us to keep our Financial UA office operating, to offer Financial UA videos, to develop new literature, to keep our phone service operating. And once this whole pandemic is over, once the cough has been treated and everybody's healthy again, we can start offering recovery boot camps. You might also consider supporting the Financial UA program by subscribing to the Financial UA channel. You might also consider giving a big thumbs up to this channel if you like this video, if you found value in this video, if you like the suggestions that we're offering, and most importantly, keep coming back, because during this global crisis, we're going to continue offering all of our meetings and workshops to you so you can stay connected with your higher power and your earning power, so you can keep working the steps of recovery and Financial UA with us, keep working the tools, learning about the traditions, and all of the other positive things that we have to offer. I want to encourage you to keep coming back so you can share these things. I want to encourage you to consider sharing, because now's the time for sharing. Who'd like to take a share? In the comments section below, please share your experience, strength, and hope around what you would do if you were to receive this economic stimulus check. How would you spend the money? Would you save it? Would you invest it? Would you focus on your needs? Would you have a plan? Would you use the envelopes? How would you approach handling receiving this money in a spiritually sober and serene way? Because in recovery, everybody's a student and everybody is a teacher. So do consider sharing your experience, strength, and hope in the comment section below so other people can learn from you. At this time, I would like to invite you to consider saying the prosperity prayer with me so we can get healthy spiritual closure. I know we've offered a lot of ideas, we've had a lot of discussion, we've done a lot of sharing, and it's a lot to sit with. So what better time and way to sit with all of this than to create a space of recovery and spirituality, to sit with your higher power and earning power and just let it all sink in. So let's do our prosperity prayer. God, grant us a serenity to accept the things we cannot change, the courage to change the things we can, the wisdom to know the difference, and the prosperity to afford it. Thank you so much for checking out this video, and please do take care of yourself during this global recovery alert. Keep yourself healthy and keep coming back. Have a great rest of your day.
God grant us the serenity to accept the things we cannot change, courage to change the things we can, wisdom to know the difference, and the prosperity